Honestly, the biggest takeaway I found is the different walks of life. That's what I love about it. There's guys that started and scraped at the bottom. There's guys that walked into it, guys that are in the middle of it. And I love that mentality of like, we all are kind of one unit. There's unity in there. It's kind of like, okay, we're all dealing with struggles. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with financial struggles, you're dealing with marriage struggles, you're dealing with just personal struggles. It's like a unity in the group that brings everyone together. You can have a multimillionaire in there, you can have seven, eight, nine-figure guy, and then you could have a five-figure guy. And it makes absolutely no difference because the guy with eight figures knows he's struggling with something that the guy with five figures can help him out with, and vice versa. And everyone's just feeding into each other, and that's what I love about it.
No, man, that's really sick. And I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this channel and know about this channel, like it's all about the journey to the top 1%. And how do we get there? It's by becoming 1% better daily. And, so that's what we're here for. But I mean, as far as you, AJ, why don't you tell the guys who you are and what you do and let's get into it?
All right, so I'm a general contractor first. I have a contracting company. We specialize in additions, full house cuts, medium to large scale projects. Additionally to that, we have another business, interior design business, which my wife is the owner of, and we do all the interior design, obviously, for our own projects and other projects. And then on top of that, we also have a business solutions company where we kind of started out as a passion project, and it's turned me into kind of like a serial entrepreneur because I went through the ringer of trying to find softwares and help and counseling and coaching and everything to kind of get me through those hurdles because my theory is like you want to get to the top, ask someone on the way down. Like if you're walking past someone and you're like, "Hey, what does the top look like?" Like that's where you're going to get the most insight. It's not going to be the guy struggling walking up the hill with you. So I stepped back, changed my circle, and opened up a solutions company. It started out just kind of helping a buddy here and there, and now we have full implementation of AI and stuff. And it's just a passion thing on the side to help other people, which brought me into like the all men's Uncaged group. It's kind of like, and even during our onboarding call there, Zach, I told you straight out, I'm like, I'm not here for help. If I get it, great. But I ate shit so many times that if I can prevent someone else doing that, like that's my goal right now. That's the season I'm in. That's where I'm at. So that's a little bit about who I am. I'm here for value and bringing value versus kind of grabbing and walking away with something in my pocket kind of thing.
No, man, that's really cool and commendable. And it's funny. So we actually talked about it on a roundtable call not too long ago. There's like this Japanese proverb that's like, if you want to reach the top of the mountain, you help another man there, because once you help this man to the top of the mountain, you look down and where are you? You're at the top of the mountain too. So it's actually funny that you brought that up. But something that you had mentioned in the big when we first started this podcast was talking about the struggles, and that's what's I don't want to say fun about it, but what's fun about it is, to your point, when you have men from all different walks of life, personalities, personas, levels in business, whatever the case is, at the end of the day, like problems are problems, which problems then require solutions, right? So, like, as we go through this journey, like, it's not to like diminish or belittle someone else for the problems that they're have. Like, oh man, like your problems are nowhere near as crazy as the problems that I'm having. But there is a certain type of motivation you get when you realize that like um we can all agree that there's different levels of severity to some of these problems, whether that be personal or professional. But when you look around and you see that the other men in your circumference are staring down the fucking face of a problem and are just being solution focused. They're just bullheaded. They are finding a way through it, whether it's over it, under it, around it, or through it. Like they are going to find a way through it. And when you realize, when you see some of these people that are a little bit more seasoned or, more veteran to this entrepreneurial world or even just personal or professional development, is we all have shit we're working on. Like there is something on our desk that we are focused on that will solve a problem in our life. And so when you start surrounding yourself with problem solvers, it makes you more solution focused. Like you yourself, I'm sure you can attest to that. Like what's something that like you've kind of pulled from that where you start to see this like transition in AJ's life? Like you said, you're in this season now where it's give back, give back, give back. And at one point, I'm sure there was a take AJ, and that AJ matured into who he is today. Like, what's that kind of journey, personal journey been like for you?
At first, I'm gonna be honest, and when I first started business, and I'm sure a lot of guys like that, like I was dick swinging. I was like, I'm the best there is. I'm this, I'm that. Until like I got put in check where I'm like, okay, I can't figure this all out. I want to be around like, successful people. I want to be around like bigger players. I deserve to be, like the smallest fish in the biggest pond, kind of, all that like nonsense. And like I've adopted a saying over the years where it's like, forget the noise because it's all BS. Like you got to do you kind of thing. And that first season, it really put me in check when I started putting myself around other people. Because when you see these successful people and you see guys doing seven, eight, nine figures, when you get in a room with them, it's not what you think. There's no chest beating, there's no like shit like that. And that's what changed my mentality. It's kind of like, hold on, when you're at the top, you collab. You don't compete, you collab. You know what I mean? Like it's like, and until you're in those rooms, like you don't get it. Honestly, anyone listening, if you're like just starting out or your season or year two, three, four, five, six, it's kind of like those are early stages. And like once you get into those rooms, it's game changing. Like you sit there and think, okay, now I've made it. Now I'm doing good. Now I'm doing great. You're gonna walk in that room. There's a guy doing 10 times more than what you're doing, but they're not there to compete with you. They're not gonna throw it in your face that I'm doing 10 times more. They're literally gonna look at you and say, hey, you know what? How can I help you 10x? And that was like a huge season change for me. And then I started rolling with, seeing guys collaborate, and I'm like, you know what? How can I collaborate? How can I help out? How can I do something? And the next big season change was I was at like a round table in person, like a meetup, and we're going around the table and there's a lot of like younger entrepreneurs and everyone's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. I don't know, because they were changing stuff in their business, and that's what we're talking about. Like they're like hired first employees, they scaled up and put a second crew on the road, or they just went off on their own. And everyone around that table, there was seven of us, and we went around and just organically everyone was like, I don't know if I'm going to get through this, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to have to do that. The guy leading the round table looked at me, he goes, so what do you think about it? I'm like, I'm just waiting for when it's going to pay off. And he's like, that's it. And I looked around the table. He's like, you're the only one that says, when is it going to pay off? No, not if it's going to pay off. And that was a big mental breakthrough for me where I'm like, okay, that organically and naturally came out of my mouth. So I know like I've leveled up. I hit another stage where I'm like, it's going to pay off. It's just how much resistance can you go through?
No, I mean that's huge, and for the people that are listening, and what you like, go back and listen to that. But because part of the thing I want to mention on this is because I understood what I understood at the time that I understood it, as far as what success looked like in a generation where we're at, where everyone is fake flexing on social media and stuff like that, right? To the point of AJ talking about dick swinging and flexing, is I thought that was I was in that same boat. Like I was out here dick swinging because I thought that that's what it took to be successful, right? Because I had these like, and this is the part that I want everyone to like really think about, is I was looking up to people who were dick swinging. So I was dick swinging. And it wasn't until I understood, to AJ's point, that the guys that are really doing shit aren't. And when I was getting in these rooms with these people who weren't dick swinging, who were actually doing real shit, come to motherfucking find out all these people that I was like surrounding myself with, that I looked up to, that were like dick swinging their eight figures, ain't fucking dick swinging eight figures, bro. They're not really doing this shit. Like they're claiming this stuff. And there's a few guys in particular, but one specifically that's out there that if I said his name, we probably all would fucking know who it was. Bro, I wouldn't fucking trade P&Ls with this dude. Like this dude might be doing gross numbers that sound sexy, but this dude's net numbers are worse than what we're bringing in, and so to your point, like I started to get into more rooms, and I'm a boisterous person. I'm loud and I'm obnoxious. I know it. Like, and I'm definitely extremely outgoing, but I've definitely seen like a maturity in my life being around the people that are more collaborative than combative or competitive, for sure.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I'm not knocking the whole like chest beating when you first come out the gate and stuff. I think that's a season everyone should go through. And I think that kind of molds you to who you are. If you can step away from that and say, this is who I want to collab with versus this is who I want to be. So I think you need that edge to become an entrepreneur, run a business, even an entrepreneur. Let's be honest. Like
Yeah,
someone that steps into a business and said, I can run this shit. I don't need the owner around. Like you need a little bit of that edge. You do have to have that competitive aspect to it, right? But it's the longevity in your career and in your season that it lasts. I think that's what molds and creates like character in people. Where I know guys 10 years down the road, they're still that way. But they hit a wall and it's like their business grew, got to a certain point. It's always going to be there. Because as much as anyone says, "Oh, I grew this from nothing," no, someone gave you a helping hand. Someone connected you with the right person.
100%.
Someone sent that intro email that landed that, six-figure contract that you never would have got. Like there's collaboration, all success. There literally is. And I don't think you can be successful without having that competitive edge at the beginning. But I think to get to that next level, you need to let that go. And there is times for it. There is times where like you have to be competitive. It's kind of like, I got a trade show coming up. Am I going to sell, sell, sell? I'm going to be right in your face all day, every day, right? And if I see the guy down, the aisle with five people at his booth, but me only one person at my booth, like, yeah, I'm gonna. I hate to say chest beat a little bit, but I'll go the extra mile. But nothing against him. There's no insult. There's no, I guess, criticism. Nothing like that. But you got to have that edge on you. So
Yeah.
don't let that go. It just there's a time and place for it. Does that make sense? Like now you
Yeah.
get to the point where it's like, okay, there's a time and place to be like that.
No, 100%, bro. And I'm here for healthy competition. There was actually, and that's what like I wish there was more of, right? Like I've talked pretty openly when you start to look at some of these like Asian cultures or Indian cultures, right? And like you start to recognize that they have the most trillionaire families, like, and you start to realize like it's because they're all coming to together and they understand that the strength of their family or their crew or their team or their network, whatever, is better together. And but I say that from a standpoint of like a healthy competition too, because there was a I forget what school it was, some Ivy League school came and they brought these like sprinters together and they told the sprinters like, hey, look, we are trying to submit you for this like record breaking competition. We want you to run literally as fast as you can. And then they would run and they brought them back. And then all they simply did was like held up a fucking piece of paper with their time on it, showed it to them, and made them run again. And immediately they should have been gassed, right? Like they gave it all they had. But they immediately, because they had a pacer now, like they had a time to beat, they outran their previous best time. And then what they did is they did that simultaneously blindly to another runner. Well, then they put those runners side by side and they made those runners run side by side. And then they beat their previous best that they had just beaten their own records. And it's about this, like, this run together. And so, like, I'm all for like this healthy competition. And, it's ironic that you brought up the healthy, mindset of like growth of, you used to understand or you used to think that this success came from you, bumping your chest and chest beating. Is I had made a post 2 years ago when I had made the announcement of going all in on Uncaged. Actually, it was a year ago, but I had been in fully full blown in Uncaged for a year. So, irregardless, the post was from a year ago, but I'd gone all in on Uncaged 2 years ago, and that transition was just such a pivotal moment in my life because that was like probably that thought process that I went through of like understanding what it is and is not about, like what success truly is and is not. Because we were literally, I mean, $250,000 worth of cars in the driveway. We had an offer in on a $1.2 million house. We're flying all over the country in private jets and shit like this, staying in multi-million-dollar mansions. And like, I thought that that was like the shit people wanted to hear. So like we talk about it all the time. And the journey for me was understanding that when I came into the private sector and I started to see like real success, as I started to see real success, like a lot of the KPI that I was chasing because it was a lack of maturity of like a business owner was like revenue numbers, right? Which obviously it takes revenue to make the world go around inside of your business, but because that's what I was chasing, I was leveraging that KPI to hire my team. So therefore, the root and the most central part of our conversations was about money. And it took me getting burned three full times. Three, well, one singular person, and then one team of my people, and then technically one singular person with a team under him. So it kind of progressed each time, and it took me three times to learn this lesson. But because I had centralized what I thought was success, like, oh, bro, year one we did $331,000, and then we doubled the next year, and then we doubled the next year, and then we doubled the next year. Here I am attaching the success to like doubling revenue and profits. That attracted the people to me that were focused on that KPI too, money. And so the first single guy walked away with one of my six-figure clients. Then the second team that burned me, they were embezzling $20,000 a month from me for how long? I have no idea. They were with me for fucking 4 years. So who knows how much money they took. And then the last singular entrepreneur walked away with his half of the team and multiple six-figure clients. So like because I had centralized all this chest beating around the money, the money, the money, I also attracted the people that were money, money, money. And then when money becomes between what you're building and what they want, they will fuck you over for money every time.
Yeah, and
So
that's what they came in for, right? That was their main goal, that was their asset, right? But you as the owner, you set that standard, and we've all done it. But I'm looking at value. Like even with my employees, I'm like, hey, you guys want to raise? Yeah. What more value are you bringing? You're not getting a raise just because it's time for a raise. Like
mm,
bring more value in. I'll put the money aspect on the table,
yeah.
but how are you improving the team? What integrity are you bringing? What core values are you implementing every day? Stuff like that. And I find building out the team based off that, and then having, I guess, let's say a little like purse package as a raise, as an incentive. Like money shouldn't be the motive. It should be an incentive, yes, but not the motive.
Yeah.
Everyone does come to work for a paycheck. We run businesses to have a paycheck. But I think that is pushed in, again with the noise. It's pushed in your face so much noise out there saying you got to be a seven figure. I know a guy, truthfully, he's a six-figure business. I think $450,000. And literally his salary is like 200,000. And I
Yeah.
know guys that are seven figures and their salary is probably 40.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's all comes down to margins. It all comes down like there's so much more to it. And everyone like you were saying with the fancy jets and like sure you get like box seats to games and fancy hotels and stuff like that. I don't know if you're on the same level as me, but now I'm at the point where it's like if I have it in the budget, like my goal isn't to have, a 6 or 7 figure car. Like I don't care for that. Am I going to hire a personal chef so I can buy back my time and not cook meals? Yeah.
Mm,
You know what I mean? When I quote a job, I'm looking at it and say, I don't want to make X amount of money on this job. I look at it as how much time do I have to put in and what is that valued at?
mm,
Not this, I want to make $100,000 on this job. No, I want, to put in 3 months and make $100,000 rather than put in 6 months and make $100,000.
mm.
And
Absolutely.
it's like my value now is time.
Yep.
I want to jump on podcasts. I want to come into groups and bring value to them. I want to free myself up for my kids, my wife, my friends, stuff like that. Like I want to do what I want to do and have that freedom, which I know I love working. I'm a go-getter. I love working. I'll never stop. But I'm finding that it's changing with I don't need $1 million in the bank.
Mm,
If I have enough to live off of and my life's simple, as long as I have my time, like you don't get that shit back. Like you
mm.
can't, people say, what is your time's worth? Priceless, man. It's priceless. That should be the goal.
Yeah. No, it's cool that you bring that up because like that's one of the big buzzwords inside of Uncaged is dream life, dream life, dream life. What's your dream life look like? And everyone because we're so bullheaded on that. And like honestly, man, I'm like if I could just get everyone to understand, like, how can we get to our dream life as quickly as possible? And I don't necessarily, but it is because there's not really the dollar or assets, whatever you really want to call it, would be the vehicle to get there for some people. But when you, to your point, when you start to evaluate what does our dream life look like, especially if you go through the 30-day challenge and you do the whiteboard scenario, which is fucking literally day one, the hardest day, but it's like the most foundational piece, is when you have this conversation, A, with yourself and B, with your spouse. And if your kids are old enough to have an opinion on the way their life needs to go, your children as well, is like, hey, look, we can get to our dream life in 3 years if we bust ass, we say no to almost everything. But once we hit this, like, life, life is by design. Or we could take this other route. It might take 7 or 8 years to get there, but we're present. We get to say yes to some of the things we want. And we start to really evaluate through pros and cons, like, what is it that truly does matter to us? Because to your point, um, that's what I've been chasing, is like a more fulfilled life, because we do preach so much inside of Uncaged. It's fun for me when questions get thrown back at me, right? Like, because, and I don't think that anyone's trying to catch me, right? Like, oh, does this motherfucker really practice what he preaches? But like, it's like, hey, man, like, this dude is convicted about this. Like, what's his answer? And so, like, it's fun for me when I get to explain some of this, because a lot of times in real time, I'll either get caught up in thought or I'll get choked up in emotion where I realize we're obviously not 100% there, but I'm like, fuck, man, like, we're doing this, bro. Like, this, like, what we're dealing with right now, like, at one point in my life, I prayed to be where I'm at, because like I knew it was like a stepping stone to get to the next. And so it's just been really fun going through this journey, and like emotionally, and almost bro, to like a spiritual level, understanding like what really matters in life. I'm sure you've had some experiences like that because of the season that you're in now. So like, what's like some of your mindset, like, when it comes to, you mentioned how much you value your time, like, where do you spend that time now, right? Like, you buy it back, so you have a surplus of time, and then you have the opportunity to save or expense it. What do you expense time on?
I'm very torn on that recently. Like last year, I went through a lot of personal development. I went through like, the typical cliche, like, oh, you know what, let's challenge myself. Let's do 75 hard. Let's start traveling a little bit more, this and that. I found, okay, it wasn't 100% what I wanted, but I went through it. I can check it off my bucket list. I'm done, right? Now with my time, I'm very, let's say, selective, but it's nothing in specific. Last night came home, had dinner, had a quick like Zoom call, and sat on the couch with my wife and we read. That's all we did. We read. Didn't go for fancy dinner, didn't go out here, didn't go for, you know what I mean? And then, in 2 days, if the weather's nice outside, we might go for a walk. Like, but the thing is, I'm choosing to do what I'm doing my time. Then I'm coming home and there's nothing on my schedule. It's that like freedom to be able to like embrace something. It's like this event comes up or this, kind of hit me and it's like, oh, you know what, we should get this done. Or stupid things like I think 2 weeks ago was sporadic. It was like I remember the days I'd work an all night Friday night trying to catch up on paperwork, exhausted Saturday, fight through the day, trying to rush around the kids and stuff. Saturday night I'm gassed. Last Saturday it was kind of like, we got nothing to do. Kids, you want to go out and watch a movie? Yeah, let's go out. Like it was just kind of like I can do stuff on the drop of a dime. And I'm trying to figure that out with myself, like what's next for me. And like now with I guess this solutions company, it's starting to take off. Like we're bringing on clients, we have deliverables, people are reaching back out to us, like you've changed stuff for us, you've helped us out, this and that. And I'm like, now I'm gearing more towards that. Like we were talking about at the beginning of the call, like the value part of it. I'm like, I don't feel like it's work. I'm sure like you do with Uncaged, like you have a passion for it. There's like an investment in it personally where it's kind of like, I want to do this. I don't need to do this. My construction company, do I need to do that? Yeah, that thing's got to run and, you know, be kind of like, the fuel to feed the fire per se, like, money wise. It does come down to money, right? But then this solutions company is like a passion thing. So when I have time, it's like, do I want to work on my solutions company? Do I want to spend time with my kids? Kids, you got anything to do? No, we're both going out. Okay, I have some time. Hey, babe, you want to read a book? Yeah, let's read tonight. Then tomorrow night, she might be out with her friends, and my kids might be busy. One kid at work, one kid at sports, or whatever it is. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down and work on the other business. But it's my choice, and that's where there's no definite answer. Like right now, I'm really in like a gray area where like where do I spend that expenditure of time? It's like where I want.
Hmm.
It sounds selfish, but it's like that's what I do want. I
No,
want to choose what I do. I don't want to have to do something.
and that's like, and that's part of like, how old are you?
39.
That's awesome, man. And that's part of like, so it's about 2 years in time where like I can see like my posts because like I've been like living this transition very vocally and very transparently because to your point, like I learned a fuck ton over the last several years and there was like three things back to back that happened, three conversations with people that like from an outsider's perspective would all say that these men were successful, right? Like you have Bobby Castro, who, started a business with $750, was a ninth grade dropout, took the company to over 1,200 employees and exited for over $1 billion, and now is recording a private 100-year-old legacy documentary where he's teaching his entire family for the next 100 years how to continue on with their wealth to, Sammy Knight, one of the original founders of Mossy Oak, to the late Dr. B. And all three of these guys are all people that like in all senses of the word were successful and wealthy. And they all said the same thing without saying the same thing. And the way I'll sum it up is like, if we had started pouring into others sooner, we would have gotten where we are today, or we would have gone further faster, right? And it brings me to like, two different things, two different like quotes. One is, if you want to go somewhere fast, you go alone. If you want to go somewhere far, you go together. But then also the other quote is, what was the other quote I was going to make? Damn, I just like lost my train of thought. There was two quotes on that were like pretty important, and I'm like, fuck. So you go far, go fast, and then I want to say it was a Zig Ziglar quote. Damn, I hate taking up time thinking about this out loud. Oh, if you help enough people achieve what they want, and they will help you achieve what you want. And so, like these are two things that, like, hearing these three guys that I look up to with the utmost respect, telling me these things, and here we are in our mid to late 30s, learn like we have people that are 20 and 30 years our senior saying things like this. And it's up to us to decide if we're going to rip that band-aid off and start living life by design now instead of waiting another 20 or 30 years. So like for you, I don't think that it's selfish because the more and more, and Alex Hermosi talks about it a lot, and there's a lot of other people that do, but it's like if you were to like fast forward to like your deathbed and you look back, what do you think advice you would give yourself on what decision to make on like, okay, how do you spend your time? And there was actually we just shared it inside of the group. One of the guys has a buddy that has been kind of running parallel in business for the quite some time, and this dude just did a partial exit of one of his businesses for $52 million, and his post was incredible about it when he announced that he was exiting, because he said there in the future there will be two types of regret that you'll have exiting a business like this. He said, what'll happen is you'll exit too soon in your mind. And then you'll have this regret of greed. You're like, oh, I could have held on a lot longer or a little bit longer. And maybe we would have sold for $1 billion and not my exit, net would have been 100 million. I would have doubled it. He's like, in the future, there would be this regret of greed. Or I hold on too long. I don't adapt properly. Something happens to the economy, whatever the case is, and I lose it all and I end up with nothing. I'll still have regret. It'll be a different type of regret. It'll be regret off loss. And he was like, I would rather have this regret of greed than regret of loss. And it's like when you start to like really, to your point, surround yourself with these people that are doing real fucking things, it puts some of your decision making in perspective when you hear people that are much further along than you talk. And for the way I look at it, I'm like, bro, like I got the cheat sheet right here, dude. I'm
Yeah.
learning these lessons at fucking 36. You're learning them at 39. Like, fuck, bro. Like, but if you don't hear the fucking lessons, it's all for nothing.
And I think a lot of people get scared of hearing. I think when people talk about value and exiting and like net worth, people are very discouraged. And I find business people that aren't business owners don't get it. And I find very early business owners don't get it. Like, who was it? Was it Elon Musk said it's easier to make an extra 10,000 than save 10,000? Like, to get around someone that's a net worth of $7 million, and I'm not downplaying it because they worked hard to get there, it's not fucking hard.
Hmm.
It's not like having meeting someone that's worth seven figures. And if you haven't read the book, like Millionaire Next Door, for instance, or what's the other one? The Money Tree. Like Money Tree is a lot about like networking and so forth. And then like the Millionaire Next Door is like it explains how someone doesn't look like they have money, but they can be worth millions of dollars. But people can't fathom like it's almost like a discouraging point where say you start out your business, you have this competitive aspect, and you're like, oh, I'll never get up there. It's like it's not hard to put yourself beside those people. They're just people. They just played their cards a little bit different and they played them right. They came across, the right connection or the right network, or they just didn't beat their chest early on and just kind of like played the game a little bit different. Right. But I think a lot of people need to stop being discouraged with getting around those big numbers where you just said like 500,000 or exit at 51 million or this guy's net worth is like 2 million. It's like you could literally walk out your door and jump on social media, DM 10 people. I guarantee some of these big players, two out of the 10 will get back to you personally. Like it's not hard.
Yeah.
So to put yourself around those people, I think people really need to push and do that more. I think the mentality changes though, because people go in there looking for something. I need the quick fix and I have an extra $10,000. How do I invest it? No, you got to just like, you got to follow suit. There's a point in your life where like you get around these people, like you're gonna be a sheep. And I think that's putting the ego to the side, like we were talking about with the at the beginning with the chest beating and dick swinging. Like if you can put that to the side and be a sheep in these rooms and listen around and listen to what they're doing, see who they're talking to, how they're talking to them, like you could be doing the same thing.
Hmm.
Like they made it. So why not, like you said, the cheat sheet, like why not mimic that and just streamline it? And do that. But I think people get so discouraged hearing numbers again, the noise, right? You hear these numbers, you hear this, and when you quit your 9 to 5, making 60, 70, $100,000 a year paycheck, like you can't fathom those numbers.
I
But it's
agree. I agree. And, and that's something that I've been pretty vocal on because, when I was in corporate America and I exited to go private sector, millionaire was like the buzzword, right? Like, oh, like to be a millionaire, but you don't even really know what a millionaire even consists of. It's just a buzzword at that point, right? Like, does a millionaire mean you have $1 million in your bank account? Like, you don't understand assets or cash flow. You don't understand real net worth and, assets minus, debts and like EBITDA. Like, you don't understand any of this. You don't understand exits or roll ups or anything like that. And it's not until you get around these people and I say it like this, like at first they're gonna talk about it and it's gonna sound like a different language. You're not gonna understand it at all. It's gonna be confusing and it's gonna make you want to just like be like, hey, I don't get any of this. Like this isn't for me. I'm out. And then you hear it comes up again and you're still fucking confused. And then it comes up again and like you pick up a couple of things and then you hear it again and it's a little less confusing. And then you hear it again and then you're just kind of confused. And then you hear it again and it like kind of sort of like makes a little bit of sense. And then you hear it again and then it starts making more sense. And then you hear it again and it makes, some sense. And then you hear it again and it starts making sense. And then you start like learning it. And, it's crazy because when I did that exit, if you had asked me then, um, what does the future look like? Like, man, I would love to sell my company for $1 million. Like $1 million is all the money in the world. It's like you're like 15 and you see your first $100 bill in your hands and
Yeah.
you're like, you think it's all the money in the world. And then you start getting around these people and learning real money. And that was like kind of my experience in making the money and generating the revenue. But then similar as I matured, I learned it like from my exit because I've experienced wanting to make my first 100 grand in a year. And then we did it. And then I started being around other people that were doing way larger numbers. And then I went to doing 100 grand in a quarter. And then we started hanging out with people that did things on much higher levels. Then we did 100 grand months. Then we did 100 grand weeks. Right. And I mean, obviously it wasn't a continuous every 24 hours, but like we
Yeah.
even generated 100 grand in a 24-hour period, at one point before we shut everything down. And so like it wasn't because I started getting around these people that were doing real numbers. Like to this day, we got guys in Uncaged that'll do $100,000 weeks every fucking week. And it's not until you get around these people where you're like, shit, man, like, okay, they're doing something correct. And then, we got a guy in Uncaged right now that's within 5 years. It's like 4 years and some change left before he exits, and he's got a current valuation trending for over $1 billion exit. And it's like, holy shit, like that's real fucking money. And so because I've been around those people and I've learned and like they've given me like book references to read and assets to look at and things to actually forecast and prep for it. It's like, when you just only 4.5 years ago, I would have told you $1 million is what I would have sold for. Now I'm looking at a realistic net of 70 million on exit. And it's like, fuck, dude. Like, and I'm at a point where I think like that number's too low. Again, due to some of that, like I have a number in my head I'd be comfortable with, but these numbers are 10, 20, 50, 70x the original limitations I put on myself by myself. But started getting in the right rooms, started shutting the fuck up and listening, and not just listening, but actually implementing. And through that education process of actually implementing it and not just doing what they said or listening to what they said, listen to what they said, do it, try it for myself, learn from it, adapt it, pivot, take it back to them, refine it more, and just continuous process. Dude, my whole life's fucking changed being in rooms like this.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And it doesn't take like for instance, 2 years ago I went down to an event and everyone thought I was crazy. I paid like I think it was like 2,500 or 3 grand for the speaker's lunch. There's only 10 tickets sold. And I walked in that room and I'll swear to God, I'll never forget. Eric Thomas kicked a chair out and he goes, "You need somewhere to sit." Like Eric Thomas is the number one motivational speaker in the world. But putting yourself in that room, like those guys are worth millions of dollars, like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. There's Andy Frisella there, Ed Milet, Tim Gover, Cody Sanchez. I think there was like 26 speakers at this event. It was called, I think, Limitless. And like, if you look at the investment, like you get in that room, people know you paid money to be there, so they're going to take you more seriously. But two, like for $3,000, like the average family probably pisses that away at McDonald's and eating out over the year. So look at that value of what you brought. And I came out of that event change, 100% change, right? I didn't even have like deep conversations. It was just kind of like sitting there meeting these people face to face and seeing that they're human. That's all they are. They're human. You know what I mean? Like talking to Eric Thomas, and he said, "I'm going to be the number one speaker in the world because I work harder than everyone." End of story. There's no like talent, there's no skill, there's no nothing. It was literally just, I'm just going to work harder than everyone. That was his mentality. Like he speaks for six figures for a 20 minutes speaking gig. And he got there because he's like, I'll just be better. I'll just work harder. I'll get up earlier. Like
And that,
so to say that and get to that level, it's like, what happened to, oh, I have tattooed on my arm, my bicep. And one of my biggest well, one of my favorite quotes is Napoleon Hill, where it's like, man's biggest weakness is the word impossible, is his belief in the word impossible. It's a little longer than that, but you know what I mean? Though, like everyone thinks, oh, it's impossible, it's impossible. When someone like Eric Thomas is speaking on stages worldwide, getting flown around the world, fancy hotels, just because he woke up earlier, just because he worked harder, just because he dedicated himself and sacrificed more. There's no PhD, there was no like, you know, abbreviation behind his name. There was no connection of like, hey, I'll do you this favor and this and that. He literally just woke up at 3 a.m. every morning and just said, my competitor is doing at 5 a.m. I'll get up at 3. I'm not as good as him, so I need 2 extra hours. And that was it. And that's what he told me. And that really like put things in perspective where it was kind of like anyone can do it.
Everyone thought the 4 minute mile was impossible till it was done.
Exactly, right? You know what I mean? And like I think a lot of people forget about the gap. I'm sure you've read it, the gap
Yep.
in the gain, right? And yeah, this guy's looking for it already.
It's on here
um,
somewhere.
No, but you know what I mean, though, and like I just had that epiphany the other day where it's like, we're concentrating on the business solutions company. We just opened a brand new office through the construction company. We have a shop now. We got a home show coming up. We hired more staff, put another truck on the road, all during the slowest season. We implemented it where we brought in benefits for the company. It's like just pissing money out, just pissing it, right? I'm like, things are getting tough, right? And my wife literally turned to me. She goes, remember a spare bedroom upstairs where the library is now? I'm like, yeah. She goes, do you remember your little 6 foot by 2 foot desk in the middle of that room and just a laptop and a notebook that was Hilroy from Staples? I'm like, yeah. She goes, that's how you started. And now you're complaining you have an office, full staff, more trucks on the road, a shop and everything. She goes like, look at it like that. And like I even get it. You know what I mean? I could sit here and preach and come to me with business problems. I'll solve 99% business problems in the first hour if I sit down with someone. And that's not even like a cocky way. I'm confident in myself,
Yeah.
right? But I need that reminder. But it shows you I need that reminder too. Sometimes that there's a gain, not just a gap. And my wife had to like put me in check the other day saying, you're complaining. I'm like, I'm not complaining. I'm just stressed out. And she's like, for what? You had a desk upstairs by yourself, one man show on the tools. Now you have a full field staff, more trucks on the road, admin staff. You have me full time. I quit my job. You're paying me a salary. You have an office. She goes like, you started that what 4 years ago? And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy how fast you have to be put into check. So, I don't blame people for forgetting it or not seeing it because I'm guilty of it too, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a big thing is kind of like looking at it and saying like you said, like that 40 million, what'd you say, 40 million you're gonna exit, 50 million? You said
70.
that might even be low, right?
Yeah,
But
70.
I'm sure there's days where you look at it and say, oh, 40, 50 mil, like, am I really gonna make this happen? Is this gonna happen? And there's days you wake up where it's like, no, you know what? I think it's 70. It's it's like a teeter totter, right? When you have that mindset, it's just so hard to kind of balance yourself out.
Dude, it is. And that's also too to like kind of bring it full circle back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this is like, being in a group like this and having so many men from so many different walks of life, you know what I mean? Like there's some guys in the group that would love to be in a position that you are in with all the different staff that you have, the different departments, the different vehicles and trucks and stuff like that. And, I think it was, I'm trying to like think on when all these episodes will air, but I think it's one of the later episodes that we just had. One of the guys was like, yeah, man, like, I'm having these scaling issues inside of my business. And one of the calls I was on, we had a dude that like literally just got out of prison and was like starting his business and just getting started and just looking for a place to, put his head at night. And he was like, dude, it's crazy because he took inspiration and motivation from that success story of this dude that like had enough grit to say, fuck it. Like I'm all in solving this problem. And it's like, you know what? My problems aren't really that big and like moving on. And then you hear, someone like Stoller talk about having issues inside of their business and like essentially last quarter just lit 200 grand on fire that he'll never get back. I mean, arguably there was a lesson there that's worth 200 grand, but that's
Yeah,
besides the
I
point.
get it. Yeah.
You kind of look at these two different problems. You're like, one's worse than the other, but fucking is it? And, so like, that's cool that you were able to get that perspective shift, especially from your wife, because that's something that obviously in Uncaged we're big on is these relationships with our spouses and to look back and see what truly matters when it comes to like refocusing on like why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing, I think is fucking huge.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think a lot of people need to like I understand there's a hustle and grind. I can respect that. I get it. I'm still in the mix of it. Will I ever let it go? Probably not. Like these guys that say like, oh, when I exit or I get out, I'm gonna enjoy all my time, this and that. I'm never gonna stop hustling. I love the hustle and grind. I love waking up, going to work, having something to do, but it's choosing what you want to do. But as you get to that point, like you gotta tap yourself on the back sometimes. You do. Now, do you sit there for, you land your biggest contract, let's say. Do you sit there for a week and, stop generating leads and stop following up with potential leads and stuff like that? That's what differentiates the people that make it to those 8, 9 figures versus people that stay at that 6, 7 figure mark is because they celebrate their wins too long. I think there is a fine tipping point in there where like, yeah, you know what? Tap yourself on the back. If you want, go out for a nice dinner with your wife. You know what I mean? Go on a quick vacation with the family. Yeah, sure. Celebrate a small win, but don't like, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't like identify yourself as that win. To say, oh, I landed a 6 figure contract once and this and that. Like, I'm sure you've heard it. Like some guys like, oh, like 2 years ago, I landed this wicked big contract or this client or this and that. That was fucking 2 years ago. Get over it. Like, and you got to get back into the game and start like hustling again. And I think that's what pushes those people up to that next level. So I don't think there's anything wrong with realizing the gain you've got and the wins you've had, but you can't dwell on them too long. As far as like, I'm sure you have, people that are like, oh, back in high school it was a shit. Like, sure, but
Right. But
like
now,
we're almost
yeah,
40 now, bro. Like, let it go.
I think it was Tim Grover, and I mean, I don't want him killing because I could see him going one way or the other about this, but I think it was Tim Grover talking about like the difference between like champions and stuff like that is like, a lot of times we hear these people and they'll get confused on whether or not we celebrate big wins, whether or not we celebrate little wins, whether or not we celebrate at all. Like, do we just keep hustling like grind culture, like blah 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 blah? And I think it was Tim Grover that said, celebrate fast, right? Like to your point, it's like, all right, cool. Like I'm all for celebrating the wins, even the little wins. Like I'm all for smelling the roses and giving people the flowers while you still can. Like I'm all for some of this stuff, right? But the thing is like whether it's a win or a loss, don't get too held up in it for too long because we still have work to do. Unless you have like hit your ideal dream life, like we have work to do, bro. So there's right and wrong ways of like celebrating and stopping and taking your foot off the gas and things of that nature. So I definitely think that, obviously that's a much longer conversation and a more fluid conversation from situation to situation, person to person. But I agree 100%. Like, you're going to have wins along the way and you're going to have losses along the way. And understanding how to navigate those waters is what's going to ultimately make or break you. And if you know that, it then becomes your responsibility to figure out how to best appropriately operate under those successes and under those losses for sure.
And I also agree that there's wins and there's losses, but I think there's also lessons. And I know a lot of people might crucify me for this, but I don't think every loss is a lesson. I think people get complacent. I think people let their foot off the gas, where a loss is sometimes a loss. And it's a lesson that you've already been taught. I think that's where there becomes a problem. It's kind of like, like you let your foot off the gas a little bit too much and, sales start to dip or, lead gen doesn't happen. And you get to that point where it's like, oh, how come I don't have, the revenue I do, right? Oh, this happened last year in the fall. Like, well, now that you've done it twice, it's kind of
Yep.
like,
A choice.
this is no longer a lesson.
Yes.
This is a loss because you
Yes.
could have learned your lesson the first time. The first time it was a lesson. Second time it's a loss. Sorry, but like it is what it is. So I think people need to be like aware of that in life too. Like, what I mean? It's kind of like if you go to the gym every day, but if you take 3 days off, it shits the bed and your habits are 3 days, make sure on that second day your ass is back in the gym. Because if you do that 5, 6, 7 times throughout the year, like you're no longer, learning a lesson of like, oh, if I don't go to the gym for 3 days, I kind of like miss 5 days at that point. It's kind of like, we learned that the first time in February.
Yeah.
Now if you're still doing it July, September, December, you just lost time at the gym at that point because you didn't learn your lesson.
100%. And that's, we talk about that a lot. I joke about like, my goal with my wife isn't to not fight. It's not to have the same fight twice. And, we roll that over into the business too. I agree with you 1,000,000%. Like there's learning lessons that come up. And then again, it's your responsibility to learn those lessons. If you don't, and it comes up again, 100%, I agree that it's a loss. But bro, I fucking appreciate you spending time with us here today, dude. What can we do to pay AJ back for the time that you've spent pouring into us on this channel?
Honestly, just if you have any issues, problems in business, personally, whatever, just reach out. Like I said at the beginning of the call, like I'm here to serve. I'm here for value. I'm here, like it helps me too. You know what I mean? Like especially with the solutions company, if I can just hop on a call and you got a problem and I can solve it in 15, 20 minutes or just connect you with the right person
Mm.
or kind of steer you down the same route, like I'm ultimately like practicing. You know what I mean? So like I love getting on those calls. I love meeting new people. I love expanding my network. Like even if it's just to say what's up, man, just shoot me a DM, shoot me a text, whatever you have to do. Reach out to Zach. He can connect you with me, and we're pretty much good to go at that point. Honestly, I just really trying to expand my network and kind of make sure I'm helping one person at least every week or every few days, kind of thing.
Fuck yeah, man. I love that, bro. And I appreciate your time here, man, AJ. It's been a great conversation. And if you're listening, and if you got anything out of this, please give it a like, give it a share. Let us know in the comments or reach out to myself or AJ personally and just let us know what your biggest takeaway was on this episode because that's the kind of stuff that keeps us fired up in this channel going. But other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.